So next we're going to have a workshop from Hannah Place. They're going to do Decolonised SpaceTime and Self-Love Portal. So I'm going to give you hosting. 1 second. Okay, and you should be co-host, Hannah.
Okay, brilliant. Can people see and hear me? Great. I'm not quite sure if I'm in control of like what kind of view people have, but it doesn't really matter for this workshop. So to begin with, before I kind of start running through what's going to happen, you will need either another device where you can make voice notes or just some pen and paper. So if you don't have either of those things, if you can, as I'm chatting on, you can go and grab yourself some pen and paper, or just maybe like your notes page on your phone. But thanks everyone for being here. What we're going to do basically in this session is we'll be making 3 messages to ourselves. And this is a practice which I developed after having read Black Quantum Futurism. I've actually put a link to Rashida's book in the chat. And it's an eternal practice, so once you kind of start it, you can continue it forever. It keeps itself going if you keep up with it. Yeah, I have put my email in the chat as well. You should be able to find that there, and you can, if you're interested after we've done the session in continuing the practice, I'll be creating like a little online group space for people to meet once a month and share. I have many practices like this and similar practices that have come out of the same kind of work and experimentation. So we'll be holding space to kind of continue that journey together. So if you're interested, just drop your email in the chat or directly to me, or email me directly. But yeah, so this session is about decolonising space-time, and that is very linked with self-love. And temporal oppression is a massive thing that affects kind of every part of our lives, really, in every day. And I'll give like sort of a brief overview of how temporal oppression works using the example of agency. So there are studies that have been done that have shown that basically one of the biggest determinants of people's health globally is not the medical care that they're receiving or the drugs that they're receiving, and it's to do with mental health, physical health, types of health, but it's actually the amount of agency, the amount of power that they have within their environment. And if you Google social prescribing, you can find out a lot of information about that and all the research that's been done. But basically, the effect that we have on the environment around us and the way in which we're able to engage with it, and the agency that we have to interact with our environment, is one of the biggest determinants of our health and well-being. And so for Black people, for people of colour, for Indigenous people, for queer, non-binary, trans people, this is even more important, because our time is something that oppressed peoples are within the systems that be of white supremacy. We are given by that system less agency over our time, right? Time is money, money is time. And yeah, certain people are less or feel less able to have ways of choosing what they do with their time. But actually, what I learned when I started reading Black Quantum Futurism, and then sort of like took myself down the whole rabbit hole, is that our African concepts of time, pre-colonial concepts, conceive of time not as being this linear object, but as being something which we can actually interact with and manipulate and engage with, and it's not just a linear thing. So when I read that, I kind of thought, well, how can I kind of actually bring that into my experience of the world, and rather than just know it on an intellectual level, how can I actually make that something that I feel and part of my whole conception? And that was where I came up with this practice. And so, yeah, so what we're going to do is we'll make 3 messages to ourselves. Before we do so, I will guide you, but as we go through the practice, you will essentially kind of be guiding yourselves for the message making parts. So beforehand, I'm just going to guide everyone through a quick meditation that'll help us get to that place where we're ready to engage. So you can close your eyes or keep your eyes open if you'd like, it's up to you. And just take a moment to still yourself. And I would like you to imagine now that the center of the universe is located just below your rib cage. Okay, just in the center of your being, below your rib cage. That's the center of the universe right there. So you never have to turn left or right or look up or down to locate anything within the universe, to find anything out. Everything is located within the center of the universe right there. That's the only place you ever have to go. And as you breathe in and out, breathing in through your nose, breathe into that space, expanding that space just below your rib cage, and really feel how that feels when you breathe into that space and breathe out again. And continue doing so, and really follow your in-breath and let yourself just experience the sensations, whatever comes up as you breathe into the center of the universe and breathe out again. And take one of your hands, or just imagine one side, bring your conscience to one side of your body. And if you're using your hand, just outstretch so that it's facing upwards. And as you're breathing in and out still into that same space, I'd like you to also imagine that in that hand outstretched, in the palm of your hand, is every memory that you have. All of the past exists within the palm of that hand. Okay, everything that you understand as being attached to the past is right there in the center of your palm. Feel that. What does that feel like? What texture does it have? What weight does it have? How does it contact your skin? Is it within your palm? And just take a couple of breaths in there. And holding that, I'd like you to just bring that hand into the center of the universe in your core, and just tip all of those memories, all of your imagination of what is the past, all of history, into that space within the center of the universe right inside you. And just feel what happens as you tip that in. How do things change? And then I'd like you to take out your other hand and just stretch it out, or bring your attention to the other side of your body with your palm facing upwards if you're using your hand. And this time, I'd like you to imagine that the entirety of the future and your imagination itself is located in the palm of that hand. Really feel what that feels like, what sensations that has. Is it similar or different to the sensations of history in the past, in your memories? How does your imagination feel different to your memories? Do they feel the same? Okay, feel the physicality of that in your hand. And I'd like you to do the same, just bring that into that center space and tip it into the center of the universe within you. And now we have right within you, in that center space below your ribcage, is all of history, all of the past, all of your memories, and also all of your imagination, all of the future. And as you breathe in and out, what I'd like you to draw your attention to is between the in-breath and the out-breath, there is a moment, just a boundary, a liminality between those two. And in that, if you really feel into that, you'll start to feel tingling sensations in that center part of you. And you can choose to lean into those tingling sensations, or you can choose to just let them pass through you. If you choose to lean into them, you can start paying attention to each one of those little tingling feelings and maybe kind of grab a hold of one and really meet it, introduce yourself to it, and carry on doing the same a few times if you like. That cusp between the in-breath and the out-breath. The alchemy of what's happening when we're joining the past and the future, our imagination and our memories together, that liminality. And as you continue to focus on expanding the center of the universe within you, on your in-breaths, really expanding the center of the universe, those tingling sensations will begin to expand out onto your skin. And as you breathe in and out, just let them flow through you, and you can feel them and just experience what that is, what that's like. And what you've met there is the present, the liminality, the boundary between the past and the future. And just feel what it's like to be in that space. Whenever we need, we can reach the present, but ourselves to that boundary between the in and out breath within the center of the universe, which is below our ribcage. And when you're ready, you can bring yourself back to the room and open your eyes if you have your eyes closed. And once you're ready, what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the message making. So I am going to put a timer on, and it'll just be a real short one. So I'm going to put a timer on for 3 minutes. And during those 3 minutes, what I'd like you to do is to tap back into that center of the universe, that space, and feel into the you who you're giving the message to. So you're going to write this message down or record this message, and I want you to put in that message love for yourself. And the way that you can do that and make that actually felt by the self who receives it is by really feeling and believing and leaning into that feeling of love as you're giving the message to yourself. Okay, so I am going to share my screen now, and we will have yeah, I think that should work. Okay, that doesn't seem to be working. I don't need to share my screen. Well, I will keep track of time, and we'll have 3 minutes now for you to make those messages to yourself. 3 minutes will start now. Okay, so that's 3 minutes have passed there. So whenever folks are ready, we'll move on to the second part of the practice. Now this is where it starts to get interesting. So we're going to do 2 things this time. We are going to receive the message that we just gave to ourselves, and straight after doing that, we're going to respond with another message, but this time the message is a response back to the self that gave the message. Okay, so when you receive the message that you just gave. So if you've written it down, just read it through. Feel into the self that gave it. Really meditate and sit with that version of yourself who gave the message. And before we do that, just take a second to understand, sit with yourself and understand yourself now as being the version of yourself who just a few moments ago you gave that message to. So you are now the receiving self. Okay. So this time round, I'm going to give us 7 minutes to receive the message that you just gave, and then straight away you're going to make another message back to that self. Okay. And I will start the timer now. Okay, and that's your 7 minutes, so you can just wrap up where you are on that second message. And so with each layer, it gets deeper and it gets more and more interesting. And if you are doing this, writing it down, I'd really recommend afterwards, like this practice is yours now, so you can take it and go and do it with voice notes. And there are so many different ways that we can do this practice, but when you hear your voice back, it brings another level, and there are so many other different ways that we can bring extra levels to this experience. On the third message, and the reason why I start people off with doing 3 messages to themselves in a pretty short space of time is because when you reach the third go, you reach a point where you receiving the message and giving the message are occupying the space of the future self who the message has been given to. You're also, of course, occupying the space of the present self, but the past self who's giving you the message is occupying the space of the present self when they were giving the message, and also speaking to a future self. So that present you is also future, and that past you is past, present, and future. And so we have this, we start to build this relationship where we realize we can interact with ourselves, and we can actually receive that interaction across time, whether it be in one direction or in another direction. It doesn't really matter. We can still make that contact and receive gifts from ourselves and receive love from ourselves. So this third time round, we've built up a few layers, and as you build these layers, you build trust with yourself, because you start to be able to trust that there is love that's being imparted, and that your messages are being received with love each time you do it. You build that trust. And so we're going to do the exact same thing this time. We're going to receive that message that was given to the past self, but we're going to step into understanding that that is us as the receiver. So we're going to receive the second message, and then straight away we're going to give another message in response to that. And each time we're imparting love back to ourselves, okay? So I'm gonna let you go now. Time for 7 minutes again, so you've got time to receive and time to give the next message. And we'll start now. Okay, and that's the end of our third message making part. So as soon as you're ready, we come back to the space. And yeah, as I say, there are so many different ways for this practice to work. And now that you have the tool and understand the mechanics of it, each time you receive a message, you make the next message straight away afterwards in response to the message that you just received. And you can do that in so many different ways, and it can be applied to so many different parts of your life, where you can create a situation where you're just walking through your day and receiving love that you've deposited in all of these different things for yourself. So it's not only a process which allows us to engage with the multi-dimensional nature of time and our ability to step into experiencing that multi-dimensional nature, but also into self-love. And it's not an easy practice, you know. We don't live in a world that makes self-love easy for us, and so it's an incredibly strong thing to be able to develop these practices. But this is just one tool that you can sort of apply to basically anything. When what we'll do now is, if Rashida, I think, will separate us out into breakout groups of up to sort of about up to 7 people.
Okay, gotcha.
And people can just share anything that your group.
All right. So in our group, one thing that was brought up in particular was the, like, I don't exactly want to say tone, but the feeling expressed when you're talking to yourself, of like attempting to problem solve for yourself, or like maybe you have a hard time because, you know, normally you're very cruel to yourself. And so being able to stop and like process coming to a place of love and witness often a lot of forgiveness and need for forgiveness coming up with that as well.
That's great, thank you, Revel. Who would like feedback next from the next group?
I'll go ahead and go. I was in a group with Nicole, Sargway, and Rocky, and one thing that we ended up talking about was being self-referential and the wisdom and that can come from that space. And specifically, some of the words that came up were safety, trusting, and just being all-knowing, and from and the play and fun that can come from that. So just what doors and realms can open up when you decide to go inside, and how comforting that can be.
Thank you, Brianna. Who'd like to go next?
I can go. So I was in group with Soliana, Danielle, and Dio, and we had a lot of laughs, which was great. But I think just this idea of you know, knowing that we have how we want to be like in the world, and knowing that that's also who we are in that moment. Like we were talking about this idea of like an endpoint of who we're supposed to be. And, but that's not, but that's still the idea of like linear time, and like, instead of, and why that exercise was so interesting of like occupying both. And yeah, I feel like there was more, and I can't bring it all together right now, but it was great. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, who would like to go next?
I think I could go for, I think we were breakout group 4 with Charla, Paige, Vaughn, and oh goodness, who I'm forgetting the last member, but I know you're here. I think the theme that came up for a lot of us was the struggle between the self-criticism and negative self-talk, and the reluctance to self-love. And in the moment, especially if you're someone who's like used to having that soundtrack in your head all the time of judgment and shame, then the exercise